report got split in two actually. So I think I'm at like 700 on the year.
Oh
Um,
shit.
and so the thing that I would say is like everybody wants to like everybody wants to talk about schedule and lead flow and all that stuff, but especially you guys that are on here today, right? On Christmas Eve during the day, you guys probably adhere to a schedule that warrants enough hours and you put in enough work. Um, so as far as schedule and lead flow goes, I think everybody knows the answer. Um, especially the people that are on here today. So as long as you're putting in the right hours and it's a schedule that you can actually adhere to, then you guys are going to be fine. It's the people that are too inconsistent in what they do that end up having a really tough time. Um, Lead flow is super simple. You just got to have them come in every week. You can't skip weeks. You can't have unpredictable lead flow. Like you can't, if you have a recurring, lead flow where stuff comes in on like a more or like a subscription or predictable billing, then that's that's probably best. If not, you're just buying leads the same day of every week. You can't even be late by a day or two because it's just any bottleneck and slowdown in your lead flow is going to be really tough for you because you're going to have a slow day and then you're going to get bored and you're going to kind of get out of that groove. And again, it's going to throw you off from that schedule and being consistent with what you're doing. Um, I think that from um, a building standpoint, that'll help you guys too in terms of that consistent schedule. Like whether you're in Zoom or whether you're in an office, you have to show up because, if you're trying to lead people, you have to lead by example. And, you can't be all over the place and expect other people to be consistent in their, schedules and stuff. So, um, schedule is super simple, straightforward. Leads, super simple, straightforward. Just have them come in every week. What questions do you guys have as it pertains to IULs or trying to build a team that sells IULs? I think this month we'll finish at about 500,000 in team volume for my group, and I would say 90% of that business is IUL. But I'm all ears to anything you guys got, anything I can help with.
Yeah, dude, that is fire. So I know you're saying like subscription-based leads, making it predictable, not just adhering to that strict schedule. But
Yeah.
what are you putting your new agents onto immediately? Are you getting them onto the fresh dripping leads immediately, or like aged IUL leads, or are you sending them old leads that you ran through? What does that look like for your brand new agents?
Good question, dude. So I think for new, like brand new agents that are new to the business, um, I'll definitely give them some of my old leads, let them run through those. If nothing else, then just for practice. But I'll also have them, talk to some of their warm market. I usually have them come up with a list of like 10 to 20 people that, are in their warm market, family, friends, or extensions of those people. Because the nice thing about IULs, right, is whether you're, working professional, you have strong income, whether you're, just starting out. I mean, you could be a bartender. Bartenders don't have, retirement set up. You could be whatever, a personal trainer, um, or you could be, a business owner who makes, really strong income. Like those people all, would be eligible and we could potentially help them with an IUL. So I think getting new agents to, work through their warm market just to start out, I don't think it's a sustainable business model long term. I think you have to have leads, but I think getting them in, letting them see, how that conversation sounds and listen to that live, with you helping them close that and then them seeing a deposit come in is going to give them confidence. And then what it also does is gives them, some cash to get leads. And then it can kind of snowball their business. It's almost like, business funding or small business loan when they can close, two to three, warm market people in their center of influence. And then, you can kind of parlay that into leads and finding some success with more of the model that, we follow on a more replicatable basis.
That's fire. Well, that's
Quick
awesome.
question. Quick question. Do you step away, or I mean, I don't know if you do any like final expense, but would you say like do you step away from final expense a little bit, or would you step away from final expense to get more into the IUL scene?
I mean, it just depends, dude. Like, there's groups that still do final expense, and they have guys that do still 40, 50, 60 in issue paid business a month. I don't know what the profitability is like. You could write 60 a month, but if you're writing over 20K in debt, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, with IULs, like what I really focus on and try to build my business around for myself and every agent or manager within my group is all we care about is profitability, man. It's like, you know, some managers are going to be like, dude, as long as so and so is putting up 50K a month on the issue pay board, like, I don't care if he's writing over like 50% of that is debt or, whatever. All they care about is the issue paid numbers. But for me, I want people to actually be profitable, which means business has to stick on the books. And, you have to be, um, realistic with your marketing spend, like what you're putting in, and what's coming into your bank account. And so the reason I'm focused on that for my agents is because profitability is what really will get people to stick around. Like, realistically speaking, if you're writing 10K, 15K a month and final expense or mortgage, like, dude, it's going to be really hard for you to actually make any real money and actually really get ahead. And so I don't think that you couldn't build a business off of final expense or mortgage. I think you absolutely can. But I think you need to kind of decide which one you want to, focus more on, and then make that pivot quicker than you think. Because, if you kind of do like 50-50, or you're like, oh, I'm going to buy IUL leads once a month or whatever, you're never going to really get it down. And then you're never going to truly have confidence in it and in your skill set to sell it. And then you're never going to actually make that pivot. So if you truly intend to make that pivot, I would suggest you have some money, kind of saved up and enough to pay your bills and pay your marketing and lead expenses. And then, really, really try to dive into it. But I mean, I still have guys in my group that sell mortgage. Nobody sells final expense, but I have some guys who are, killers on mortgage, and they're like, should I switch to IULs? And I'm like, dude, it's your business. I can't really tell you to do, what you should do with your business. But I just think eventually you'll see, you'll kind of hit a bottleneck in your business in terms of profitability, on your own pen, with mortgage. But I think the ceiling is much higher with IUL business.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah, and I just saw the IP. It is split up in two, so you're right up just about to hit 700,000 year date, man. It's your first year of insurance, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you think the IUL scene is like 90+% of your business, an IUL business?
Yeah. I mean, me personally, definitely. Um, we'll pivot to like a whole life, here and there for people who can't qualify, but their goal is to protect their family and leave something behind. That's a pretty easy pivot, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely 100% IUL leads, and yeah, probably about 90% of that business is IUL. Just only exception is if people, don't qualify. And then I would say my team is probably 80 to 85% IUL, with the exception of I have a one group that still does some mortgage.
What do you think your like weekly or monthly lead spend looks like? And did that change over the past year, or has that been pretty consistent?
Yeah, dude, good question. So I actually started, dude. I was writing still 40, 50, 60, 70 a month when I was just spending $1,000 a week on leads. Um, so what changed for me was I needed to be like, I think, because here's the thing, dude, I just worked a lot. Like I worked really hard. So I could buy $1,000 of leads. And because I would actually work, most people don't actually work. Like they really don't. If they calculated, like if they had a little ring camera, right, observing themselves all day, and then they actually sat down the next day and dissected it minute by minute, they would see that, oh, I actually really don't work. But I really did. And so I was able to still write 40, 50, 60 a month, only spending a grand a week in leads. And so I was hyper profitable. But as you need to, as you're building a business and as you'll do, you have to kind of reevaluate what you're doing, your process, and all those types of things as you're moving along, because you need to kind of see, like, dude, where is this route, like where is this road taking me, like how far can I get on this road, do I need to veer off to another direction, not necessarily like groundbreaking, and totally change what you're doing. But for me, what I kind of found was I had a lot of agents in, but not a lot of people were selling. Not a lot of people were, doing doing the kind of numbers that they should have been. And so what I kind of realized was, as I was bringing new people in, I needed to be a little bit more present for them in terms of getting them paid. Because if you get people paid and you teach them how to do what we do, they'll stick around. So for me, what I did was I was like, okay, I'm maybe not going to be able to work the leads as hard because I want to make myself available for my agents to help them. So what I did was I spent a little bit more on leads, a little bit higher quality leads, and I hired at that time just one assistant to dial through my leads and set appointments and stuff like that. So for me, I knew that in the moments that I was helping a new agent, or in the moments that I was with my family or whatever, I had somebody doing something to be productive for my business in terms of my personal pen and my writing. So I knew I had somebody dialing through my leads. I knew I had somebody setting appointments for me, and I had to up my lead spend to do that. But as they say, you take one step back to take two steps forward. So, that was kind of a form of that, where I would, maybe I have to sacrifice to pay a little bit more in my lead spend to be available for agents, but I knew long term that would help grow my business. So to answer your question, I mean, now it's anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500. But I was writing a lot of business just on freaking $1,000 a week. So if you really work leads, I think that can be done for sure.
So that when you were spending $1,000 a week on leads, that you were a full-time producer, like did you have a team at that point?
I did, but we weren't really doing anything crazy. I mean, so I started like Thanksgiving of last year, like right after Thanksgiving. So when I really picked up the phone, and then December was my first full month. So I wrote my first full month. I wrote 43,000 on my own pen, and then January, like by about late December, I had a few agents, a couple that are still with me today, which is cool, to be with people for over a year now. But not really, man. I mean, we weren't doing anything crazy. If I did, I mean, I think in January I probably wrote like another 45, 48 or something. So if I did, let's say 45, our team volume was probably, I don't know, 70 or something. So basically from zero or not much of team volume to, I'm hoping we end up, we finish this month out of December at about 500,000. So it's a process, man. But nah, man, when I started out, it was really just me.
All
Hey
right,
Jake,
and
I have
do you
a
think
question.
that one assistant got you to the point where you saw your agents getting paid more? Because I think that's something where we're looking at hiring like a dialer or some type of appointment setter for agents once they hit like a certain marker, like 15K issue paid a month or 20K a month. All right, we'll pay for a dialer for you. That way you can, focus on building a team if that's what you want to do, or just walk into the day with some appointment set. Do you think the appointment setter, you saw a drastic change in your production, or it was something where maybe
Nah,
it
the
was.
production's always been the same. It was just the way I could parcel my time.
Mm,
But like I have, dude, I really take it as a case to case basis, the whole dialer thing, because like I have a guy who he writes 40, 50, 60 a month. And he's like, dude, should I get a dialer? I'm like, no, you're just lazy. Like you write a lot of business because you're pretty good at selling, but you're lazy, bro. You don't even work. Like you don't really actually dial. Like you shouldn't get a dialer until you're writing 40K a month and you're like actually dialing and working like crazy. If you're writing 15, 20K a month, you're not actually working. There's just no shot. It's impossible. Nobody's actually working if they're only writing 15, 20K a month. So I think it's got to be a case to case basis. I mean, I think that if you're writing 15K a month, you're really not making much money. So like I would, if they're going to go focus on recruiting, I don't know, man, because it's like you got to think about what people are actually netting if they're issuing 15K, especially if they're like a new agent on a starting contract. Like they're not really going to be netting that much income. So I'd be careful with that. But I do think that for the right person, it can make a whole lot of sense. I think if they already have agents and those agents are kind of struggling, but they're still super committed. They really want it. They just maybe need some support. Then I think it would make sense. But then again, I don't know how much an agent who's writing 15K a month can really help, their own agents. It's
yeah.
hard to lead when that bar is set so low.
Fine, thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Hey Jake, thanks for coming on today. And Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve.
Thank you. I had a question though. When you realized when your team wasn't performing the way you wanted it to, what changes did you implement into like a day one agent that came in that you didn't that actually like made them produce?
Honestly, I mean, I think what's going to make everybody rise to the occasion and go sell more insurance is just bringing in new people. So like there were people that I had in that they just weren't very productive, but there was no like they just looked at me like I was different. Like well, he writes 40K, 50K, 60K, 100K in a month. That can't be me though. Like it's just like he's just an anomaly. And so you have to be able to change that narrative within your group. Like there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be a cumulative effort to raise the bar and set the standard. It can't just be one person. It has to be you as a leader. There's no doubt about that. You can't be, anywhere beneath the standard, but I think you have to bring other people along with you to show that that standard is realistic. Like I have three, maybe four agents in our group that'll hit Hall of Fame this year. And probably next year, there'll probably be like 6 to 8 that are just in the group right now. I don't know, obviously if you bring on new writers and there's new people that could emerge and, people that'll become studs. But just as of right now, I think there'll be 6 to 8 Hall of Fame writers. So when you have that going for your group, it makes it really hard for anybody around you and within the group to find any excuses to not, step their game. So as far as like helping new agents and getting them to write, I think it helps when they come into a situation in which they see to be in the top 10, like you're writing 20K. And, if you want to be the top for that month, like, dude, you could have to write 80K, 100K. Like what I have, dudes in my group that have written 6 figures in a month, multiple people, including myself. So it's like, you're not going to be like thrust into a situation that welcomes average if you have, abnormal results and individuals like within your group. So I would say the best thing anyone could do for their group and their agents, whether it's a new agent or an agent that's been around for a few months or even a year plus, is like, dude, just raise that standard cumulatively as a whole. And, make it known for the group that, if you want to stand out, like these are the standards, these are the numbers.
Heard. So like, what's your onboarding process then? Like, introducing someone in. So like, do you set them up with a CRM, like automatically like drip text, or like, do you just have them straight call? Like, what's that process like for you?
It really depends whether they're like a new agent, new to the business entirely, or if they've worked in insurance before. So that process is a little bit different. Let's say it's a new agent, brand new. I'm going to have them listen to some recorded calls and some closes. From there, I'll have them watch all of our recorded trainings. Like we have done, mock appointments. We have some e-app tutorials, stuff like that, just to kind of get them acclimated. We have a CRM setup video so they can get their CRM set up. But a lot of it's automated just because you want to see like who's going to actually move through that process and execute on what they need to get done. And you're like, hey, go watch these 10 videos. By the end of those 10 videos, you should have an idea of how to maneuver through the e-apps of all the carriers that we use primarily, how to build an illustration with, the advanced market carriers that we use, your CRM should be set up, and, you should have an idea of, how that conversation goes with the client on the phone because you've listened to it a couple times, and, you have a framework and kind of a script that has been, built out and curated based on, top producers and their kind of framework and their flow. Like I've never used a script. I'm not a huge script guy, but I think it can help a new agent to get an idea of that flow and that process through a conversation. But giving an agent like those tasks to go away and execute, and then having them come back and be like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, what's next? Then just be like, okay, like, what's your financial situation like? Like, do you have money? Do you not? If they don't, you can try to get them some old leads and have them run through those and kind of work it that way. And that may be a good option either way. But onboarding, I think, really has to be pretty streamlined and allow them to kind of show you who they are and what they're going to work like. So you're not putting your time in the wrong people. Like those are very straightforward and simple tasks to execute. We have like, a weekly team schedule, like, hey, here are the team call times and the days. This is how you access it. Here's our team group. Like, make sure you're plugged in for any announcements and stuff like that. And then you just kind of like sit back and see what people do, because people that are going to be top performers and that are going to be different, they'll separate themselves. You don't have to really, work that hard to see, who's going to be different, who's going to be just average.
Cool, cool. That makes sense. And then last question, I promise I won't bother you much. Um,
You're good.
the with the solidification, you made it like you made a big point saying like you want people to stay on the books. What do you do to ensure that they do stay longevity? Like how do you teach your agents that as well?
Like in terms of with being with clients.
Yes, with clients, like keeping them on the books for like longevity.
Yeah, good question. So for me, I'm pretty big in scheduling the annual review and kind of being, I think if you can take 5 minutes to tie down your sales, like we spend 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes selling somebody. We get the banking, we submit it, whatever, and then we're like off the phone with them. Just take 5 more minutes max to say, hey, John, again, man, this is what we did today. How this is going to work is this XYZ. In 12 months, we're going to do an annual review. I'm going to have my assistant follow up with you next week. We're going to get that on the calendar. In terms of the interest crediting period, that's at the time that we're going to see what interest has been credited over this point to point period that we selected. So it's very, very important, John, that we make these payments like we talked about, right? On the 15th of every single month. It's like clockwork, man. And then 12 months is going to be the culmination of, that discipline and that commitment to what we set up here. And we get it. It's going to be like Christmas morning, right? We're going to be able to kind of peel back the curtain and see like what interest did we get, within this first year and what's been applied to our cash value. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page, that this isn't a one-time, set it and forget it type thing. Like we're going to meet every 12 months. Like, we're going to be working together for, hopefully years and years to come. And I just want to make sure that, you're clear that we're going to set up this annual review. Obviously, if you need me anywhere in the meantime, I'm here to do that and serve you. But we absolutely are going to meet at that 12-month mark. Okay. He's like, okay. And then I'll just have my dialer maybe follow up with him next week and, call him and say, hey, let's get it on the calendar and then whatever. But that'll help a lot for sure.
100%.
And I think, it'll help keep business on the books. And obviously you're still going to have people like it's rare with IULs. You're never going to have really people cancel, sometimes stuff comes up and financially, you'll have an insufficient funds and people maybe financially can't keep up with it. But I mean, if you do it right, people will not cancel these.
No, 100%. That's genius. I never even thought about like, having that annual review at the end. Now, do you automate that message or do you actually have like somebody reach out a week later or does it just automate it through your CRM?
You could just have it automated if you want. If you have a dialer, it wouldn't be bad to just say, hey, call, make a note in your calendar to call John next Monday and schedule him for, December 28th next year. And that can help. But if you just have an auto text that goes out, hopefully they respond to that and get that in their calendar. But it helps for sure having that kind of closed loop, if you will. Of
No, thank you for all that.
course.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think with the annual review, that's something where have you been doing that the entire time, or did you start picking that up like maybe
I probably started doing that like a few months in. Um, yeah, probably a few months in,
that's
but
fine.
it
I
definitely
just had
helps.
like one of my first annual reviews with one of my clients. We were going over his cash value. I have a question. When you are closing them down on the IUL, are you ever like letting them know it's like, hey, like I know you want to do the $200-300 a month, $500 a month now, but you're saying you want to wait a couple months so you can fully afford that. Do you ever start them off with a policy anyway and just have them pay the minimum premium for the first maybe month maybe 2 months tops. And that way you can get the sale, get them approved, and then just make sure they're covered with the life insurance part, and then they can start fully funding it.
It just depends, man. I mean, it depends on the amount, I would say. Like if they're like, I really want to do 1,000, man, because I want this to be worth it. But right now, like I know I can't swing that. I would rather kind of have a conversation with them and whittle that down to like what the realistic contribution amount is going to be for them, and just set them up with that. Like, getting a client is better than getting, having no client, even if it's, they want to do 1,000, but they can only afford, $150 or whatever right now. But making sure that it's like something that's going to stay on the books, because if they're like, I really wanted to do 200, but I know I can't afford that right now. Like, what's the minimum I can do? And you're like, oh, $50. And they're like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know if that's going to be worth it. Um, if people can't afford a $200 expense, and adding that to their plate, then, the chances are that if an unexpected, expense comes up, they probably can't afford $50 either. So
True.
I would, just dig a little deeper, and that's a case to case basis. It depends on the amount, depends on, what the reason is, like why they want to do X amount and why they feel like they can only do, Y amount.
Okay, fire. Yeah.
Sir.
And then does anyone have any other questions at all?
Yeah, what are the key things you usually say? I know you say you don't really run a freeze or anything like that, but what are the key things you say in your call that kind of like sparks the interest a little bit? I know you're probably running a CRM and stuff.
What do you mean by the CRM?
I mean, like, what do you like? What are the key things you usually say within, like, I know you don't have a presentation or anything like that, but within your prezo, when you're giving a client a call, what are like the key things you say? Like, do you say, like, do you have anything that acts like a life insurance or, stuff like that?
Yeah, dude, I think the biggest thing is going to be like asking questions, right? So I usually say the only way you'll be able to sell a lot of IUL business is you have to create either intrigue or urgency within, probably 90 seconds to 2 minutes of that conversation. If you can't create that, dude, it's going to be really tough for you to sell really anything. But I think IUL specifically. And so I think what you got to do is have to ask the right question. So say you bought a lead, right? Let's say it comes with some info, maybe their goal or their current retirement situation or whatever it is, beneficiary, it doesn't matter. But I always say you bought the lead, so you might as well use it. So ask questions specific to what they listed on the lead. Let's say you didn't have any info, right? I would say, hey, Gerson, so most people usually fill out our forms online for the IUL. They're usually either looking for tax-free retirement, and we can go into the details of that, or they're looking more so to leave some money behind for their family, usually a large amount. And sometimes it's a blend of the two. Which one was more important to you when you filled this out? And he could say anything, but then I'm just asking more questions. The more questions you ask, the more ammunition that client's going to give you. And so, kind of what you mentioned, like, do you explain life insurance in your presentation, whatever? I don't ever think that I'm presenting anything to anybody. I'm just having a conversation. I'm super relaxed. Anybody who's heard me on the phones, like I'm a pretty laid back guy as it is, but it's just a conversation. Hey, Gerson, how you doing, man? Hey, who's this? Yeah, this is Jake. I was just calling in reference to the IUL request that you had filled out and submitted into our brokerage. You listed your goal as retirement income. What do you have set up right now that's gonna be giving you retirement income? Social Security. Okay, cool, man. Awesome. So outside of that Social Security, you have anything else set up? You know, a 401k through work, 403b, you saving money under the mattress, we got it buried in the backyard. What do we have? Anything else that we'd be using to support ourselves when we're not working anymore? And then I'm just having a conversation, bro. So you gotta learn how to ask questions, and you can't miss a hint, right? So like I use this joke, I use this analogy like jokingly, but like, you know, if you're at a hotel bar and this girl next to you is like telling you that she's lonely and whatever, like you don't show her like a puppy ad on Craigslist. Like she doesn't saying, "Oh, you should get a dog if you're lonely." Like, no, dude. She's probably telling you that because she wants some company. She wants you to keep her company. Like you can't miss the hint. So like if people are like, "Oh yeah, I had a 401k, but I lost a bunch of money in the market after COVID, and then I had to pull it all out, and I basically almost ended up with nothing because I had to pay the 20% fees and all that stuff." And most people, like when they're reading a script, they'll like go to the next line. They'll be like, "Cool, Gerson. So who's your beneficiary going to be?" It's like, dude, you just missed it. He just gave you the answers. Like he fucking lost a lot of money to the market. Okay, that's a huge pain point that we can alleviate with IUL. And he had to pay a 20% fee just to touch his own money that he thought it was his. That's another pain point we can solve with IUL. So it's key to ask the right questions, but you also have to actively be listening, and you can't miss the hints because the client will give you all the answers, bro. You just have to listen intently after you ask those right questions. That make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense, bro. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude.
All right, does anyone have any questions at all?
What are some of those just discovery questions you ask in the beginning to like get a client to open up?
Again, it's all going to be kind of a domino effect. If I find one thing that they're really, fired up about, or they're really interested about, or something that seems like it's most important to them, I'm not really going to ask about anything else. Like if someone's like, "Yeah, man, my mom died and I had to, I have siblings, man, and I'm the only one who makes any money, and I had to pay an attorney to get this thing out of probate. She had a house in Arizona, and I had to do this and that, and so I just, my son is a stud. He's gonna have plenty of money and be able to handle all my shit. But like, I just, he's gonna have a family of his own one day. I don't want him spending money dealing with me when I'm freaking dead, dude. So I want to make sure he's got a few $100,000. That's really all I care about. I'm a business owner, dude. I got money. Cool. Like, I'm not going to talk to him about accessing his cash value for retirement. It's not important to him. It's irrelevant to what we're talking about. So don't waste your time trying to pitch and sell every angle of the product and all these things it can do. Just find out what they want it to do, and then sell them on that. So I'm just going to keep pressing on that. Like, cool. Did you know that this stays out of probate? Cool. Are you married? Yeah, I'm married. Cool. Just so you know, hey, I'm not wishing anything bad on you, Gerson, but I'm just letting you know this stays out of any, divorce proceedings or anything like that. Just so you know. He's like, "Oh, that's sick. Cool." But he just wants the death benefit, right? So I'm not going to really talk about anything other than that. So, I mean, I don't know. The probing questions is just use the lead. What if you were buying an IUL for retirement? What would you be interested about in it? And ask those questions. And if you were buying it to protect your family, what would you be interested in about that as it pertains to the death benefit and protecting your family? And then what would you want to know about it? So that's kind of, I hope that answers your question, but you got to kind of take it where the client, wants to take it.
100%. That did. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a question. Jake, right now you're doing like 1 million a month with your team, and you got a lot of Hall of Famers. What are some long-term visions for your team this coming up like 2025? Like obviously you guys are gonna probably keep doing what you're doing with like IUL and stuff, probably get more guys on like the Hall of Fame. But is there something like, with like systems or strategies that you will be implementing 2025 to like keep, I guess, producing more volume?
Yeah, dude. We're at like a 500,000 now. I hope to definitely be at 1 million, at some point in this first 6 months of this next year. But I think the biggest thing, dude, is I think, they say the magic is like teaching other people to sell and teaching those people how to teach others to sell. I think that's true. But I think you want to think about it like I think about it more as like I want to develop other leaders. And just because you can develop somebody to sell insurance doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a leader in your business. And just because they can teach others to sell, it doesn't mean they, can lead other people and other people will listen to them and move them. So it's two different skill sets, but my goal would be to, like you mentioned, have X amount of Hall of Fame producers, but really empower those people in my group that want to build a business to believe that they can and execute on that. I think it's cute to get on social media and say, I'm going to go from this number to this number. And I think that's all well and good, but you have to, first of all, the person has to actually truly want it and actually truly believe it in their heart that they can do it. And then they have to actually come up with some strategies on what they're going to do and what they're going to change to actually implement and execute on that vision. So, to answer your question in short, it would be to empower more leaders within my group and build business people that can grow the business and create a legacy for their family and build what they truly want to get out of life. A lot of guys in my group like have young families, recently married or have young children. And for those of us that have kids, like, dude, it's just a different driver. And so I've always said, like, the two biggest things that I look for in people that I recruit is have they ever taken a gamble on themselves? And are they willing to do that again? Are they scared to gamble on themselves? Because that's what our business is. That's what anything meaningful in life is really, you got to gamble on yourself. And then number two is, what do they have to lose? I find it tough to work with people. They say like the most dangerous, person is with someone who has nothing to lose. And I think that can be true, but it can also be true in a detrimental sense. With somebody who has nothing to lose, a young kid, he's got no responsibilities. Like, he doesn't really need to build a business because it's just him. If he's homeless in 6 months because he tried this business out, like, no one's really affected. He's just homeless. He's a kid. He'll be fine. He'll bounce back. He's 20 years old, 19 years old, whatever. But for a lot of guys in my group, like, we have families, and so we don't have nothing to lose. We have everything to lose. And those are the kind of dudes that I want on my team, because the chances are if you have everything to lose, you're probably really going to make this shit work because you have no other option, not to. So I want to build empowered leaders to, build their own businesses and, create a legacy for their people. That's my goal for this next year.
That's an awesome goal. Touching on and just really quickly, and then I know getting a little late here, but like
You're good.
what's a good way that you empower some of your new guys when they first start? Like, how are you building the vision for some of your new guys? Are you showing them like, bank statements? Because I know you're issuing a lot of business. Are you showing them like your vision statement for the next couple of years? Or are they just naturally motivated because, again, like they have the family, they want to see this grow, they want to make a lot of money, they want to break some type of generational curses. Like, what's a good way for you that you've found that you can build that vision for new guys?
Yeah, dude. I mean, for me, I think it depends. It's case to case again, because you know, some guys some guys are like the bank statement type guys. Are like, dude, you show me that you're making X kind of money, I'll like lock in. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, whatever. So, if it calls for that, I'll do whatever anybody needs me to do to, help them, and if they see if they want to work with us. But I think that to build and empower, other people within your group is you have to in some scenarios you have to kind of see what people do, and see what kind of responsibilities they take upon themselves. I know it's like a common phrase, leadership is taken, not given, which I believe to be true. However, I think in some circumstances you have to challenge people, and I've learned a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about from Sean, but that's one of them. Is I'll give an example. Like last week, we had a guy, he issued like 16K in 1 week, and he used to issue like 16K in like a month or like even longer, right? Before he joined our group, and he's been killing it. And he's got a young family, and he sees the vision. He wants to build a business, and he's a quiet guy, man. He's super humble, great person, great for our culture. Works very hard. He's very helpful to other people. And and most importantly, not for me, but for himself, he's been very productive as of late specifically. And so because of that, I didn't tell him, I didn't ask him. I just told my assistant that handles all of our visuals. I was just like, hey, Jared, he's going to do the sales development call on Thursday, so put him on the graphic. She's like, okay. She posted on Instagram. She posted on our team group, and he like texted me. I think she posted it on a Wednesday evening, and then Thursday night is when the calls are. And he texted me in the morning like, hey, dude, can you give me a call when you can? I just want to go over some stuff for the sales development call, and like I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know if he was going to call me and be like, I don't know if I can do this, or I didn't know if he was going to call me and like be like, what should I talk about? But I called him, and he answered. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? And he's like, hey, dude, so I had a few things that I wanted to go over on the call, but I didn't know if you wanted me to break down one of my recorded calls, because I know that's what we usually do on those calls, or like if you wanted me to just kind of go over some tips and then like maybe take Q&A. But I do have a few things that I want to go over. Like he just totally took command of it. Like he was ready for the moment, but like it kind of took me putting him in that position to see what he did with it. And so who knows? Who knows if he would have ever ran one of those calls if I didn't just put him into that situation, because he's been performing at a high level. He can really sell. He really can. But I don't know if he would have asked, right, to want to run one of those calls or anything. So I just kind of put him in that position, and you just kind of see what people do with it. So I think it's give and take. I think sometimes you have to just let things be and see who steps up, see who wants to lead. But I think also sometimes it calls for you to challenge people and put people in a position where they're forced to lead and see how they rise to the occasion. Because a lot of people, they want to lead, but maybe they just don't think they can, man. But when people are forced to and put in situations where they have to execute, some people really do rise to the occasions, and they kind of surprise themselves. And you never really know who that's going to be unless you try people out.
That's fire. And then we've been on here for almost an hour, Jake. I really do appreciate your time. Last question, and then we'll wrap this up, man.
That's
So what has been your biggest issue paid month in 2024? And then with the result of that, what was the resulting income that came out of that first year in the business? Crazy.
I think I've issued 132,000, or it was either 132 or 123, one of the two. And I don't know if it was that month or a different month, but
Most income was I think like 116.
Well, yeah, if that's not the type of that's not even just motivation. That's something that will get you fucking dedicated. So, I mean, if you guys didn't get any value out of this call, you just probably had it muted the whole time. I know I got a full page of notes over here. Jake, I really appreciate your time, man. You know, you did not have to hop on this call with us, but again, you know, Christmas Eve took the time to continue developing everyone. Thank you for hopping on. You know, I'm gonna see you in the Hall of Fame next year, Jake.
Good, bro.
I'll be
Appreciate
there.
you. Appreciate your guys' time. And, like I said in the beginning, like the fact that you guys are on here, it says a lot about you guys. So, enjoy tonight and tomorrow with your family or whoever you're spending the holiday with. And then, Thursday is the separation period for a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to do anything. There's a lot of people that didn't do anything on Monday and probably haven't even maybe done much since Thanksgiving. But there's a time frame, from the 26th to probably about January 6th or something, because January 6th is a Monday. A lot of people are going to take that time off, and for people like you guys that are on here, that's time for all of us to separate and go right, you know, 30-40 grand over those 2 weeks or so, and really separate. So appreciate you guys. And if you're I'll put my number in the chat here if you want to leave the Zoom open for a little bit, Gerson. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
absolutely.
put my number here. I have a script and kind of a framework if any of you guys want to look it over.
That'd be awesome,
I
man. Yeah, definitely drop that in the chat.
Yeah, I can send you guys a link for that if you guys want to shoot me a text. You can just text
Perfect.
me a script or whatever, introduce yourself, and then if anybody needs anything, let me know.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I'll keep the Zoom open for a few more minutes so you guys can grab his number. But yeah, man, again, thank you so much for your time and thank you guys for hopping on.
All right,
Thank
guys. Peace.
Yes, sir. Happy holidays, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Gersh. Have a good Christmas.
Yes, sir. You too, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Gersh.
Hell yeah, man.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. God bless you, bro. Happy holidays.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm probably gonna stay on here and dial a little bit. Christian, you want to dial? Or you're gonna be doing your thing today?
No, I'm gonna be dialing today.
Hell yeah.
I just typically wait till around 10:30, 11 to start calling people.
I bet. Damon, let's. You got them leads I sent you yesterday, bro?
I did get him, yeah. I'm just gonna go and text him for his script because I like how he does it.
Hell yeah.
Like you said, don't go to the next sentence when they answer completely different. It's probably the best way to go about it. So I was trying to
Yeah.
read line from line yesterday.
Yeah, Jake is a dog. I really like the guy. Super, super
Mhm,
chill, very laid back on the phone.
definitely. I'm definitely gonna start dialing either
What's up,
Thursday or
Jacob? I think
Friday.
you're a little late, bro. That guy Jacob just joined the call. Hour fucking late.